Podcast 280. Grammar is crucial when reading the Bible. A textual analysis and literature review by yours truly, Dr. William Anderson Gittins, D.D. Copyright 2026. ISBN 978-976-97-90322. Welcome to today's podcast, where I will explore grammar is crucial when reading the Bible. A textual analysis and literature review. Copyright 2026. ISBN 978-976-97-90322. Written by Dr. William Anderson Gittins, D.D. from the beautiful island of Barbados. Published in 2026, my 449th hard copy book and e-publication explores the significance of grammar in biblical interpretation and how it is essential to comprehending Scripture. Let's start by summarizing the main idea of the work of yours truly, Dr. William Anderson Gittins, D.D. In light of this acknowledgement, I contend that grammar is a fundamental component of exegesis rather than merely a technical tool for biblical study. By closely examining the original languages of the Bible, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, I am proving that the main means of conveying meaning in Scripture is language structure. Thus, grammar maintains doctrinal accuracy, protects the integrity of authorial intent, and enhances our understanding of the biblical text. Quizlet.com study guides. The idea that meaning is determined by language has historically influenced how biblical texts are interpreted. As a doctor of divinity, I make the strong case that grammar is necessary for accurate biblical exegesis in my 2026 book. I quote, "Grammar is crucial when reading the Bible," end quote. Based on the grammatical historical approach, I, Dr. Gittins, stresses that a thorough context-sensitive study of language is the greatest way to comprehend the actual meaning of Scripture. Terry, 1890, and Thomas, 1987. This framework of interpretation aligns well with both classical and contemporary scholarly approaches, offering a robust means to engage with Scripture. Gittins, 2026, suggests that grammar should not be treated as a mere technical skill, but as a key element that unlocks deeper spiritual and technological insights. Theoretical framework, grammar, and meaning. Let's take a closer look at the theoretical framework underlying Gittins's argument. The term grammar is derived from the Greek grammatike tina, which means art of letters. Historically, grammar has been associated with the interpretation of texts and intellectual inquiry, especially in ancient and classical traditions. Online etymology dictionary, ND. Classical grammarians like Dionysius Trax provided systems for analyzing language, which would later shape both Latin and biblical interpretation. Law 2003. I, Dr. Gittins, 2026, argues that grammar is integral to biblical hermeneutics because it forms the very foundation of meaning. The grammatical historical method, which emphasizes understanding the biblical text within its linguistic and historical context, underscores that accurate interpretation depends on the careful analysis of grammar. Terry, 1890, and Thomas, 1987, have long argued that true biblical exegesis follows the laws of nature to uncover the meaning intended by the authors. Grammar, according to Gittins 2026, not only clarifies the text, but also serves as a protective mechanism against misinterpretation. Grammar and authorial intent. A central theme in my work is the relationship between grammar and authorial intent. By focusing on grammar, interpreters can uncover the true meaning of biblical texts, avoiding the pitfalls of exegesis, reading one's own ideas into the text. Zook 1991 notes that analyzing syntax, verb forms, and sentence structure reconstruct the biblical author's intentions with greater accuracy. Take, for instance, Galatians 3:16. In this passage, Paul argues that the promise made to Abraham and his seed refers to Christ, not to a multitude of descendants. This theological point hinges on the grammatical distinction between the singular seed and the plural seeds. A failure to understand this distinction would undermine Paul's argument and distort its theological implications. Similarly, in Matthew 22:32, Jesus uses the present tense of the verb I quote to be, end quote. I quote, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, end quote, to argue for the resurrection. The present tense here indicates that the patriarchs still live. If this were misinterpreted in the past tense, it would negate the entire argument for resurrection. These examples show how precise grammatical analysis ensures the theological integrity of the text. Scholars like Piper 2012 and institutions such as the Christ Evangelical Reformed Church stress that grammatical analysis is key to maintaining logical consistency in biblical interpretation. Grammatical precision prevents doctrinal distortions and helps preserve the integrity of the text. Original languages and linguistic precision. Grammar becomes even more crucial when engaging with the Bible's original languages: Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Each of these languages carries unique grammatical features that influence the meaning of Scripture in profound ways. Hebrew and Aramaic, for example, are known for their rich verbal systems. The use of different verb stems like kal and piel helps distinguish between simple and intensive actions, which significantly affects theological understanding. Buer 2000. In Greek, the language's use of aspect, theory, and tense allows for a more precise understanding of actions. Greek verbs, for instance, distinguish between actions that are completed, perfect tense, ongoing present tense, and habitual imperfect tense. This distinction is critical in passages like 1 John 1:9, where the present tense emphasizes continuous confession and forgiveness, which may not be clear in translations. Porter 1993. Carson 1996 argues that translations, while helpful, can only approximate the original meaning. To fully grasp the depth of the text, scholars must return to the original language to capture nuances that translations often miss. This highlights the need for linguistic precision when studying the Bible. Grammar, context, and discourse. Grammar doesn't function in isolation. It operates within larger discourse structures that guide meaning. Discourse analysis helps readers understand how sentences and paragraphs work together to convey a unified message. For instance, understanding how connectives like therefore, but, or so establish logical relationships can clarify the argument or flow of a passage. Long Arc 1996 emphasizes that grammar in biblical texts guides readers through the logical relationships between ideas, ensuring that the message is fully understood in context. Figures of speech, such as metaphors and similes, also require sensitivity to grammatical structure. Without recognizing that grammatical context interprets risk taking figurative language too literally. Hendricks and Hendricks, 2007, state that, I quote, "Structure is the doorway to understanding an author's purpose," end quote. By paying attention to grammar, interpreters can uncover the intended meaning behind the text's structure, enriching their understanding of both the language and the message. Doctrinal implications. Understanding grammar is essential for preserving doctrinal integrity. One common mistake in biblical interpretation is the root fallacy, which occurs when meaning is drawn from a word's etymology instead of its context. Carson, 1996. This fallacy can lead to theological confusion as it ignores the nuances of context that shape meaning. The church has long recognized the importance of understanding Scripture, I quote, "according to the letter and history," end quote. This principle ensures that interpretation aligns with literal and historical meaning of the text, safeguarding orthodox doctrine. Gittins 2026 reiterates this view, arguing that grammar serves as a protective mechanism that prevents doctrinal distortions. The concept of verbal inspiration, the belief that the very words of Scripture are divinely inspired, elevates the need for careful grammatical analysis as the structure of the words themselves conveys divine meaning. Practical implications for biblical study. Prioritizing grammar in biblical study transforms Bible reading from a passive activity to an active, rigorous practice for exegesis. Here are some practical benefits. Enhance accuracy. By understanding grammar, readers can identify subjects, verbs, and logical relationships, which reduces the likelihood of misinterpretation. Doctrinal clarity. Careful grammatical analysis leads to clearer theological understanding by highlighting distinctions that are often missed in a casual reading. Deeper engagement. Reading with an awareness of grammar encourages a slower, more thoughtful approach, leading to deeper reflection and insight. Critical use of translations. Understanding the grammatical differences between languages enables readers to critically assess various translations and ensure the meaning of the text is faithfully conveyed. As Dr. Gittins, 2026, argues this aligns with the biblical mandate, I quote, "to rightly handle the word of truth," end quote, 2 Timothy 2:15. Precision and diligence in interpretation ensure that our engagement with Scripture is both faithful and meaningful. Thank you for joining us today. To explore grammar is crucial when reading the Bible, a textual analysis and literature review by yours truly, Dr. William Anderson Gittins, D.D. We hope this discussion has deepened your appreciation for the role of grammar in biblical exegesis. Until next time, may your study of Scripture be insightful and transformative. God bless.